Give it up for Chakra and the Voices of Unity and Crystal. Thank you so much. Every weekend, giving it up for us. Thank you so much. And all under the direction of my good friend and the man that I love, don't tell my husband, Reverend Charles Cooper. All right, so talking about light. I get the honor of introducing our guest speaker today. And when Rev Kev asked me to do so, I was like, well, how am I going to hold it together? Because this man has been a light in our community for so long. And if you've ever been around our guest speaker, and I'll tell you in a moment, but I know you can guess, you've experienced unconditional love immediately. Just in his presence, day one, unconditional love. That's what he's known for. And recently, earlier this year, he gave one of the most powerful talks, and definitely the most powerful talk I've ever experienced on mental health, which has literally changed my life. And I've been out in the world doing even better things than before. So I just want to welcome, he works hard, he loves hard, and he plays hard. David Woody Bartley.
Good morning. So I recently celebrated an interesting anniversary. 4 years ago, August 31st, 2011, I was admitted as a patient in a psychiatric facility, a mental hospital. And I was there because I was headed down a path, down a road. Beyond a certain point, there's no turning back. And I had embarked upon that road because my lifelong struggle with depression had left me on the losing end of that fight. It had stripped me of my energy, of my vitality. It's like someone had taken a drain plug and out went all my hope. And that's a terrible place to be that I would never want anyone to experience. But thankfully for me, I was saved. Saved because of my amazing family, many of whom are here today, who took their awareness and moved past uncomfortability to take action to create that space of hope, which allowed me to turn around and head back in the direction that I came. And so I went from standing on the rail to standing in front of you here today. And I want to talk about the journey that has happened in the last 4 years, because it's been extraordinary. Now, the beginning of that journey was that after the hospitalization, I left the animal sanctuary that I had run for more than 11 years with an extraordinary partner, and I went to live with my two brothers, Jim and Tom, and my wonderful sister-in-law, Stacy, who I live with to this day. And I hadn't been in that situation for very long when my wonderful sister-in-law, who is here, who has big hair and an even bigger personality and a bigger smile, and she came to me and said, "Woody, aren't you excited?" And I said, "Stace, I'm like anything but excited." She said, "No, you don't get it. You get a do-over." And I said, "A do what?" "You get a do-over. You're standing in front of a clean slate, a blank canvas. You get to create a new life, a better life." And again, I wasn't real excited about that opportunity when it had been presented to me in such an enthusiastic way. Because I thought that my life before, running an end-of-life animal sanctuary, was the purpose. I thought I would do that for the rest of my life. And there was a sudden change of direction, which presented me with this opportunity to create something new. And in short order, I realized that Stacy was right, that I had an opportunity to build a new life, a better life than I had before. But let me be clear, it wasn't better because my old life was bad, that there was anything wrong with it. It was better because the new life more aligned with who I was, with my present circumstances, with the direction that I was heading. This new life, this better life, gave me an opportunity to create new goals and a new purpose. And so today, I want to talk about how do you build a new life? And I want to create it to the analogy of building a house. And so first of all, we need tools. We need the right tools. Now, some of us men have big toolboxes because we want to make up for little things. Not every man is that way. But for this construction project, we're going to have just a relatively small toolbox that's actually golden. And it's really cool. You can hold it. It's not real heavy. It almost, in fact, has a lightness to it. And the reason that it's small is it only has 4 tools in it. And those 4 tools are the 4 agreements. The 4 agreements, most all of us know about it because of this amazing book by Dr. Don Miguel Ruiz that has sold millions and millions of copies and made an extraordinary difference in the world. And those are, in fact, just the tools that we need. Now, some would counter like, gosh, Woody, that's not enough. You need this tool and that tool. You need a whole array of tools to build a new house, to build a new life. But what I would counter with is the 4 agreements, like the 4 seasons, like the 4 corners of the earth, like the 4 phases of the moon, those are enough to create anything you want to. So we have our golden toolbox, and we go on to that barren but wonderful piece of land, and we go ahead and take out the first agreement, which is to be impeccable with our word, because we're going to create our foundation. The foundation is which the house is built upon. On this rock, I will build my church. Another carpenter had said to one of his disciples. And we do that by being impeccable with our word. And the first thing is we need to understand, what is the word? In the beginning, there was the Word, and the Word was with God. The Word is a creative, dynamic, extraordinarily powerful force. But the Word can create, and the Word can destroy. The Word can uplift, and it can bring down. The Word can give life to and take life from. So we, therefore, knowing we have this powerful thing in our hand, our spoken word, our written word, we need to make the distinction if we're going to be the good witch or the bad witch. Are we going to be Yoda, or are we going to be Darth Vader? This is a powerful thing. Has anybody been in here, been on the receiving end of an insult? Has anybody ever heard, I hate you. You frustrate me. You annoy the heck out of me. How does that have you feel when the word is used in that fashion? Now, on the other end, has anybody been been on the receiving end of a specific, timely, heartfelt acknowledgement? You make a difference for me. I adore you. I am so grateful for the presence that you've made in my life. I love you. How does that make you feel? Exactly. Delicious. Scrumptious. It's extraordinary. And you stand up straight and tall. That's the power of the word that Yoda uses. Now, so we understand what the power of the word is, but we need to understand, what does it mean to be impeccable with your word? So the root word for impeccable literally means without sin. If you look up the word impeccable in the modern day dictionary, it says incapable of sin. That same dictionary defines sin as a regrettable action. Dr. Ruiz refers to sin as anything that you do in opposition to yourself. So we take the power and we want to be impeccable. So the first thing we do with the word is, how do we talk to ourselves? What's the conversation that's going on the inside? How do we address ourselves? What relationship do we have with ourselves? Because we understand, as within, so without. And Dr. Ruiz says that the greatest indication of us being impeccable with our word is the degree of self-love we experience. And when we love ourselves, we get to send that love to other people. We become a radiating center. We create this resonance that goes out and makes a difference in the world. And the great thing about the word, not only does it build up, it can also repair. It can renew, it can restore. When we built the house where the sanctuary ultimately was housed, I came from the city. I was that lowlander that went to the country, and I was loud and dirty, even obnoxious, because I had no awareness, maybe not even caring about the impact that I was having on my neighbors. I figured I'm going to remodel this house and build it new. I'm going to add value to the community. I know it's going to be a little inconvenient at the time, but just don't worry, I'm adding value. So my neighbor directly in front of me, and we faced due west, come to find out that he hated me, and we hadn't even met yet. And I know that from my contractor, who was much more present on the property than I was, and he said, man, this guy really doesn't like you. And I said, how could you not like me? You just don't know me. And he said, well, he doesn't want to know you. And so I really didn't care until it got to the point where I started to experience that negativity. The dark use of the word started to hang on me like a heavy lead coat. Almost a feeling of a cancer starting to grow in me. And so I had a mom moment. I had a moment of maturity. And I walked over on one day, and I knocked on the door. And my neighbor opened the door, and I know he was stunned to see me, and I was really anxious to see him. And I said, I'm here to apologize. And he said, what took you so long? And I jumped back, but by the grace of God, I actually was able to recoil and go forward. And I said, you know what, you're right. I have no excuse. I should have been here long ago. I should have done things completely different. And I take full responsibility for that. And I would only ask for your forgiveness. And so we talked, not just that day, but the next day, and the next day, and the next week, and the next month, and for the next several years. And that man became an incredible friend. He became, as Rev talks about, one of my 3 a.m. friends. He took a guy that didn't even know what a hammer was and created a mechanical ability, expanded his common sense in an extraordinary way. And when I had to leave the sanctuary, I had to leave this friendship, at least temporarily. And I went back about a year ago, and I went and looked at the house, the life that I had created before, and I talked with my friend. And we bonded. And as I went to leave, he said, Woody, I look at your house, and I miss you every day. That's the power of the Word. And the Word has created our foundation for our house. It's strong, it's secure, it's level, it is deeply rooted. So now we get to build. We get to build our structure, and so we take out our second tool, which is we don't take things personally. So we've assembled all our materials, and as we're working, we notice like there's this crowd kind of watching us. And God love them, they got their chairs that they're sitting on, and they even have their bullhorns. And they say, hey, you're not doing that right. You can't face your house this way. It should be that way. You never build a 2-story house. You got to have a 1-story house. Why in the world would you use brick when everybody knows you got to use stucco? And at first you don't hear them, but then the noise is so loud, and then you start to get a little worried, and you think, oh my God, what if they're right? And you're up on the ladder, and you're swinging the hammer, and you're shooting for the nail, and you hit your thumb. And then you jump back, and you've fallen off the ladder, and you're down on your back, and you're pissed off. What do they know? But you have allowed this. You have taken this personal. And then you become defeated, and you know what? Construction stops. It's like they've been out on strike. And the house sits there unfinished. And then you remember, well, you know what? Wait a second. If the inward condition creates the outward expression, and I don't have X-ray vision, I have no idea what's going on inside of you. And if I have no idea what's going on inside of you, there's no need for me to take personally what you say or do, because I don't know, and it has nothing to do with me. Wow. Isn't that freeing? Man. So you know what? I'm going to get back up on my ladder, and I'm going to hit the nail this time. I'm not going to hit my thumb, and I'm going to continue to build exactly how I want to build, and my walls are true, and the structure is sound because I'm on a solid foundation, and I get to design my life, my house, how I want to. And what's cool is when you have that ability to step away from being worried about what other people think or feel or do, you can actually have a different perspective about life, and maybe not take certain life events personally. When I got out of the hospital and I came to my family's home, as mentioned, I lost everything. The animals had to be put in different sanctuaries, different places. I watched the repo man get in my car and drive it away. My house was sold at auction. I lost it to foreclosure, and my marriage ended. I was wiped out. And I'll be honest with you, I stood in a place of, why me? Why me? Of all people on the planet, God, don't you have enough to do than get down here and kick my butt? Come on, man. And I was just firmly standing. I was right about this. This was unfair. But I had just enough knowledge coming through the manifestation and through the voices of my family that just gently nudged me away from that, just a little bit. Because staying in this place, I head back down that road, and this time, there's no turning around. And so I move over a little bit, and I think about what Napoleon Hill said in his book, Think and Grow Rich, when he said, inherent in every adversity is the seed of an equal or greater benefit. And I thought, well, that's true, but that's a bit of a stretch in this situation, so And the one thing that I brought with me from the sanctuary was my beloved heart and soul, my now 15-year-old Boston Terrier named Harmony. Harmony was the third dog that we got at the sanctuary. The first two were Chance and Bliss, and my beloved friend who is here in the audience today came up with the name for the sanctuary, A Chance for Bliss. And Harmony was the third dog that we got. She was bred and sold in return as an 8-week-old puppy because she was 100% deaf. And nobody wanted a deaf puppy. So she became the first special needs pup that we had who wasn't a senior. So on this one day, I've arrived at my family's home, and I'm trying to get my bearing, and I remember this thing from Napoleon Hill. And our house is very active. There's a tremendous amount of life flow, of love that goes on. There's 4 adults, there's 3 dogs, there's grandkids and nieces and nephews. There's almost a constant experience. Now my mom and dad are with us. So on this day, I'm sitting on the couch, and my puppy dog is just sleeping so soundly, even with all this activity, and then it occurs to me, deaf dogs get the best sleep in the house. And they do. So her disability comes inherent with a gift. How great is that? Like, okay, all right, I kind of get it. And then I look at my own set of circumstances. Okay, what is the inherent gift in my disability? My depression has actually given me an awareness and a sensitivity to what goes on around me and the needs and the wants and the desires of other people, not codependently, but so that I can step forward in service. My disability has given me a gift. And then I looked at the fortuitous events, the divine circumstances that came out of my hospitalization. I made a friend in the hospital. When he got out one day before me, he found this incredible men's depression support group. If you want to find me on Tuesdays from 6 to 8 o'clock, I will be in that group. More than 4 years attending that. A group of men in their 50-plus age range who share what the challenges and what it's like to live with a mental health disease and to be honest and open about it. That same group led me to my current therapist, my current psychiatrist, 2 different speakers bureaus where I get to go out and talk to people and say, I live with a mental illness, and it's like diabetes. It is manageable, and we need to get rid of the stigma so more people can get help. So I found my new purpose. I'm like, wow. So after having been in the place of, why me? I was able to walk over here in the place of, oh, now I see. I got it. I understand. If we're not taking things so personal, we can actually have a little bit more perspective and allow the divine plan to unfold before us. I thought it was meant for harm, but God meant it for good. So our foundation is strong and secure. It's solid. We have built our structure, and now we get to design the inside. We're going to do a little bit of interior design, and lo and behold, those same people who were behind here giving their opinion of how we built the house are in their same lawn chairs, and they have their bullhorns, but without looking inside and without asking questions, they are making assumptions about how I'm decorating my house. He's bald, he must be using shag carpet. He went Pergo, he should have gone tile. I'll bet he painted that kitchen in the most god-awful color and the artwork on his walls. Lord have mercy. But they don't ask me. But they get a little bit of a pass because we as human beings are a little bit wired to do that. Nature abhors a vacuum. Our brain hates ambiguity. Void of information, we will supply the information. And that's just a nice way of saying, we're going to make up a story. Has anybody in here ever made an assumption? Now, as Rev would say, tell the truth and stay in church. Don't leave me up here by myself. I just made one the other day. I was blessed to be flown back to Florida last Monday to make a speech about mental health. Actually, to the manufacturer of the antidepressant that I take. They wanted a patient's perspective, and I was happy to go. Plane was delayed. I was supposed to get there at 7:30. Ended up getting there about midnight. I had left early in the morning. I traveled all day from California to Florida, and I was told that there would be somebody there waiting for me, a driver holding a sign with my name on it. I'm like, man, I have arrived. That is so cool. So the plane's, I'm kind of tired. I'm just have a carry-on. I'm wheeling it through. I go through the terminal down to the baggage claim. There is not a soul there but one guy, and he is not my driver. And I'm like, man, God bless America. Somebody forgot about me. I'm not important. I got in too late. Why did I do this? I'm not worthy, and so on and so forth. And so I look around the guy and I said, if somebody's supposed to meet me here, where would they be? He said, they'd be right here. And then he says, what flight did you come in on? Who are you flying? And I said, I came in on United. And he said, well, this is Terminal A. United is in Terminal B. You took a right, you should have taken a left. Whatever. I go back up the escalator, I make the right turn, I go down the other escalator, and sure enough, there's that man holding a sign with my name on it. Like, wow. Assumptions at best are incomplete, at worst, they're dangerous. But here's the good news. You move out of assumptions by asking questions. What, where, when, why, how? Just ask questions, ask questions, ask questions. And most of the time, people are happy to talk about themselves and what's going on in their lives. We are told if we want to enter into the kingdom of heaven, not a destination, but a state of consciousness, we become like little children. Who's better at asking questions than little kids? Why is the sky blue? Do fish sleep? What about worms? Why are you angry? Why are you yelling at me? Why are you crying? Where do babies come from? We get stuck in judgment, which is an assumption, but we move into the freeing space of curiosity, of innocence, and wonder when we ask a question. An old man came into the Auburn Animal Shelter with an equally aged dog on a leash. It was a basset hound. Long ears, droopy eyes, no teeth on the right-hand side, so his tongue hung out. It was an old dog. And the man went up to the counter and he said, hey, I found this dog. And the shelter worker said, great, thank you so much. Would you please fill out this paperwork and I'll take him in the back to see if he's microchipped. So the man does that. Person comes back and says, oh my God, we're in luck, he's microchipped. And she grabs the clipboard so she can properly thank the man. and then sees that the name on the clipboard is the same as the name on the microchip. And the woman started to go down the avenue of assumption, but she held back. And she asked, "What's going on? What happened? How can I help you?" And the man began to cry. And he began to heave with sob. And when he can compose himself, he said, "My medical condition has created the necessity that I go into assisted living, and they won't let me have Joshua." And I thought if I brought him in and said I found him, instead of the fact that I had to surrender him, it would give him more time to find a home. But because that woman had not made assumptions and she asked questions, she stayed in the place of creativity, and she picked up the phone and she called us at the sanctuary. And Deanna took the call and came to me and said, "There's a basset hound that is being given up by a beloved old soul that can't take him. What do you think?" And I said, "Let's go." And we jumped in the car, and we got to the animal shelter, and we were able to take this beautiful soul. And as the man went on his journey, he rest assured that his baby boy was going on his journey. All because of a series of questions. So our foundation is solid. We have built our structure, and we've designed the interior. Now what's left is we've got to put a cover on it. I will sometimes ask my puppy dog, "What's on top of the house?" And she says, "Roof." My family has heard that probably 1,000 times. I could not wait to get that into the speech. So here's the great thing. When we put a cover, when we put a roof on top of this creation, we actually keep it protected. We keep it sound. We keep it safe and warm. And the cool thing with the fourth agreement, which is always to do our best, always do our best, always do our best, always do our best, is it unites the other three agreements. Think about a time when you've done your best. How do you feel? Cool thing is, you do your best and you leave the rest. Nobody can criticize, condemn, or direct any negativity because you just don't care. You have given it your best. And when you give your best, you unite the other agreements, you create a roof over your house. You've created a protective cover for this sanctuary, and you become immune to the dark use of the word. Now, the other important thing to remember is that your best fluctuates from time to time. Your best is different when you're sick versus well, when you're triggered versus when you're at peace. My mental health diagnosis has recently changed. For the longest time, I was diagnosed with what's called major depressive disorder. But the new psychiatrist that I got through my new group says, "David, you're not MDD, you're actually bipolar." And first I said, "Whoa." I said, "Doctor, I've never had a manic episode in my life. I've had good days, but I've never been manic." He said, "No, that's bipolar 1. Bipolar 2 is different." And he drew a line. He said, "This is normal. When you have bipolar 2, you're a notch down, and you live in a state of what we call dysthymia, which is a low-grade depression, but you have learned to adapt to that. And you're cruising along, and then all of a sudden, it's like a trap door goes out, and boom, you are down in a trough, in a pit. But because of your adaptation to your condition, you dust yourself off, and you climb back up, and you continue on. And you're cruising along, and you get some mojo going and some momentum, and then bam, down you go again." And while that's a challenging diagnosis, when he told it to me, it was like a sense of relief because I was able to understand how I'd lived my entire life. And I mention this because my best, when I was in the psychiatric hospital, looked like, I just got to breathe. I just got to try to get some semblance that it's going to be okay. When I'm up in my normal stage, when I'm here up here, I'm creative, I'm expressive, I'm being of service. When I'm down in the trough of a major depressive episode, my best may just simply be putting one foot in front of the other. So all the time, our best fluctuates, but all we have to do is do our best. and we encompass all 4 agreements, and now we stand back and we look at our house and say, wow, what a beautiful structure. This is a place that I can eat, pray, and love. I can go and be renewed, restored, and re-energized. What a magnificent creation. But the work's not done, because any work of art needs to be maintained, so we keep our golden toolbox close by, and we keep maintaining it. And I'll end with this. I agree with 99.9% of what Dr. Ruiz says in the 4 agreements. I think it's a masterful piece of work. But I think there are 2 assumptions that it's safe to make. The first assumption is that we are loved by a presence, by the God of our understanding beyond our human comprehension. And that all that entity, that presence wants to do is just for us to walk closer and closer and closer to the realization so that we feel it in every ounce and every part, right down to our very core, our soul. And the other assumption is, especially based on my experience today, that in fact you can come home again. Thank you very much. So, I have many special guests here today. And it just thrills me to look out here on the 3rd row and see so many people that made such an enormous difference in my life. They have been my rock. They have been my foundation that has held me up in the good times and the bad. But there is one person who stands out just a little bit more. My beloved mother, Suzanne. So in that thought of unconditional love, I have a living, breathing example of that. An extraordinary woman who's really, literally has taught me everything I know. And to have her here now, she has moved from the East Coast along with my wonderful dad and now lives with us in this sometimes crazy household. It is our home. It is our life. And so I'd ask Mom, would you please stand again? I would ask all of us to bless my beloved mother. And so repeat after me, please. Suzanne, we know who you are. You are a child of God. We love you. We adore you. We appreciate you. And we see you going forth to do great things. Amen.
Please stand, and if you know it, sing along. Oh, let me love in a